Welcome to From the Stands, your one-stop shop podcast for insider access and in-depth interviews with your favorite Billiken coaches and players. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Billiken Podcast for the latest news on future episodes. Now, here is your host, Billiken Athletic Director, Chris May.
Welcome back, Billiken fans, to From the Stands, where we talk Billiken sports all the time. Great to have you back. We have a guy that doesn't need an intro, but I'm going to do an intro anyway, as we were just talking about his career. Darin Hendrickson, our baseball coach, started in 1996 at Fontbonne and has had an unbelievable run in college baseball, but especially here at SLU. Let me share just a couple of the accolades. Darin got his 500th win as a Billiken. He registered his 1,000th career W against George Mason. Currently has 1,006 wins in 29 seasons. We think it's 29 seasons, if our math's right. Has 516 wins as a Billiken. Became our winningest coach in 2018. Super cool. Inducted into his College Hall of Fame last month at SIUE. But what I'm most interested and happy about is the success he's had around our baseball team. Just last year, we won another regular season. We've won regular seasons. We won conference tournaments. Last year's team won 37 games. We went 16-8 in the league. Had some unbelievably great young men come through here last year. Pat Cloesy, who was drafted by the Braves. Evan Gray, San Francisco Giants. Darin again was the A-10 Coach of the Year. But when you see the young people come through here, it is unbelievably special. We had Tyler Fogarty, who was an academic All-American last year. Transfer from Notre Dame. When you start thinking about all the kids you've touched, super exciting, but great to have you back. We're sitting here late January, and we're playing baseball in a couple weeks to count. You've been practicing since fall. The energy that goes into the coach's body come January 1. Talk to our people about that. How it starts bubbling and rolling. I know it's rolling all fall, but when that calendar, what's that do for a coach that going into a 30th season?
Well, it's funny. We see the other coaches around the department, and I always say, "You're in season. You're not in season," because the way they look on their body and their faces, kind of like the president after 4 years. But no, I'll tell you, this group has energized me because it's a heck of a challenge this year. 21 new guys, and it was that way last year. But we had a lot of returners, like you mentioned. The nucleus was there. This is not like that. This is going to be somewhat of a rebuild. I'm not afraid to say it. I know Mo doesn't like to say it for the Cardinals, but
we do that in college.
It's right. But we're ready for the challenge. You know, look, there's a lot of parity. If you look around basketball in our league right now, I saw so many teams are just eating each other up, and I feel like we're in the same boat with baseball in the conference. But the energy for us right now is off the charts. But we've got to get our kids through a tough January. It's the longest month. You know, people struggle to get through January. It's a hard month for all of us as people. So I think it's really hard for baseball. Yeah. And when you're stuck inside, you know, you get a little cabin fever, as you know. But I think we've been lucky to have a great weather week. And look, next week looks good. We'll have 3 great scrimmages this week. So energy's great. It's more of a calendar thing right now. We need to flip it.
What I really enjoy, I can tell when the baseball team's in the weight room because there is music I can hear halfway down Chaffetz Arena. But there is some big time energy and weight getting thrown around there, and that's turned into one of their places for our baseball program. How has that changed over your career, and how important that is in the work they get in with Ramon in there?
Well, you know, a coach that I read a lot about and I respect a lot was Bill Snyder in Kansas State football, and he used to talk about that was the heartbeat of your team was the weight room. It applies to all sports for me because the camaraderie I think is really. You know, it's off the charts. There's no other place where you're bringing out the passion and your togetherness. You know, our guys lift in groups sometimes. It's hard with pitchers and all that. You know the schedule. But I do think when everybody gets in there together, it's kind of like nothing else. But it's evolved a lot. We've had, you know, our strength coaches have done a great job with our facilities now being, you know, top notch as far as getting into the weight room, getting the right stuff done. You know, lack of injuries, and also preventing injuries down the road in our 13-week season in the spring, which you know is crazy.
It's unbelievable how many games we get in a short period of time.
And a lot of guys come in hurt. With this portal world we're in, we inherit a lot of bad habits, bad injuries, and all these things. So I think that's a vital piece that goes unnoticed, and Ramon just is a home run for me.
So I've known leadership often evolves coming out of the weight room, right? Sits in those guys. Yeah. How do you take the leadership and the culture that happens in that weight room and take it out here to the field? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a challenge right now. A lot of guys in our background that on our current roster, like just personnel-wise, are fighting uncertainty right now. So my biggest challenge and our staff's biggest challenge is to tackle the mentality of no fear in there and kind of let it all go and bring it into the baseball field. Baseball's not like other sports, football and soccer, you can kind of run around and move around. Baseball's more methodical, and we've got to plow through, and boring's good. And this group's not really trained like that in the world. So I've got to mesh those two together a lot and on a methodical sport in a world that's far from that. So it's really a challenge. And
we had this great talk that last fall about how more important encouraging these young guys are. Yeah. That actually meeting with the coach isn't a bad thing. That, we can have all these conversations, and the massive amounts of encouragement and push that they need because of all the uncertainties that are in their world, and coming out of the portal and coming out of all these things, and how important that is. How do you do that, and how do you have your staff locked in to do that on a regular basis?
Well, it started in the fall for us, and on day one, like I looked around and I saw the lack of innings, lack of reps, lack of at-bats, and we had a brand new group. And then, we had a couple guys with late afternoon classes that maybe weren't at the team portions some days. So I looked around and there was no leadership and no returning guys, and this is how we do things, and standards and values and things we talk about. So I was like, okay, we've got to address this immediately because they're not getting it elsewhere. You want to have a player-led team, of course. All coaches do. But we have to step in this year. Like, we only have 4 of us here, on staff that are able to take 35 guys. So it takes a heck of a lot of work. Our assistant coaches do a great job. They eat breakfast with our pitchers each day of the week. Yeah. And that's a special thing because, in the old days, you didn't do that. You didn't, and thank God for the Champions Center, but like just stuff like that, we're able to have a barrier-free zone. Just, hey, what's going on with life, much less baseball. Right. And then by 1:30, 2 o'clock when we get ready to start, it's evolved tremendously fast. And 21 guys, and if you looked at the reps, Chris, it would be pretty low as far as what we have. So I've got to get that uncertainty out of them, and it's still there. It's still real, and you're right. They need a lot of encouragement.
Okay, let's talk baseball. It's baseball season. Early in baseball, offense versus defense. When you're coaching, you've been through this a million times. Is it based on your team? Is it? Do you have? We're going to California to play in a couple weeks. In case you didn't know. So how when you're prepping a team, where's your key focus?
Well, for us,
and is one ahead of the other?
Good question. I would say the answer is, it's weird. Last year, traditionally, we've been slow starting because we're a Midwest team. The weather's tough. And last year, Hayden Moore hit the first pitch of the game out of the park, literally on the first game of the first day in Florida. And I was like, okay, this is a little different. Where's my script? But I think usually pitchers are ahead of hitters, just from a rep standpoint. That's been, but I wouldn't say that anymore is the case. I think we're getting outside more. We're not stuck indoors forever. And I think that was a biggest part of this. Our teams have started slow through the years, and we've caught up, and I like that, gaining steam. There's a lot to learn, and last year we got off to a torrid start, and you got to keep up, and it's and I know we won a lot of games and all that, but there's something about peaking late. I always watch Tom Izzo's teams, and obviously they're doing great right now, moving. I always learn from those guys about going through some adversity and grinding their way through, and then getting hot at the end. And if you watch the A-10, it's kind of who's won the deal the last couple of years.
Teams got hot late, right? And it's that grind and learning through that grind, right? And baseball's a long season. You're gonna lose some games. You're gonna strike out. Those things are gonna happen. But so looking at this team, who are the leaders that people have heard of and you expect to help drive the culture?
Sure. I mean, well, obviously it's probably the easiest ones on both sides of the field. I'll go there, but Hayden Moore and Sitz are going to be really the upper class, older guys, veterans, very good players, of course. And Austin Newig needs to step into a more advanced role this year. And he looks better. He looks older and more sure of himself. And
looks like a different kid walking through here.
Yeah, it's been fun to see his growth. And I think, I expect a kind of a sleeper breakout year for Chase Beatty, Brendan Stressler, positionally. And then some of the new guys, we have some guys that are older. They just haven't been at SLU. But, Max McGuire's and Riley Ifrig are kind of like, silent guys. But there's so many new faces back there. I think when it's all said and done, our new catcher, JT Crabb and Ahu Sanchez, both are older guys. Both have played a lot of baseball, but not here. And then I think the Weber brothers on the other side they look hungry right now. They look like they have a lot to prove. I think, we don't have a ton of, we lost a lot of arms too, with Bell and Gray, especially at the back end. So we're feeling our way through our back end bullpen right now. And, for me, that's where games are won and lost. I don't want to demoralize our team with back end losses. I think that's something that I learned a long time ago. We'll do it to you. So we're trying to start from there, and then so we might be a work in progress for the first couple.
I was going through the roster. I'm like, Jack, is Jack on line with Gibson, Jimerson? Are they trying to, who's?
No, he's not 26 or whatever.
He's done such a good job from the minute he got here.
Yeah. Webb leads our team off the field, just in a lot of ways. A lot of ways. Events on campus in the community. When we were giving our gift baskets out, he's the guy doing it. It's just stuff like that people don't see behind the scenes. He's undoubtedly the leader of our group, and I think he's looking for a bounce back year with Charlie, his brother, because both been really good so far. And I think they've just sometimes age is just a thing that as well as I do, and age is just helpful. We can coach them up, we can do all this stuff, but finally the lights go on somewhere, and I think that helps guys.
What are you looking forward to seeing in that when that first pitch goes out against St. Mary's?
Yeah, I'll tell you, and I mean this sincerely, I can't remember a year where I'm more excited to watch the first weekend and see how we react in what's a tougher environment. They won 34 games last year, in a really good league with baseball. That's a good baseball league. And I think, going to California, being in their home stadium and playing with a brand new group, it's certainly, anything could happen. I really don't know what to expect. That's
part of the beauty of it, right?
Well, it is, but I'm also, we've been coaching every day since fall about playing fearless and loving what we do. And, if we don't love it, we're not going to be really good at it. And secondly, if we don't, kind of erase the doubts and the fears and maybe some of the history and past and injuries and stuff like that, we're going to be in trouble. So just trying to look forward. Coach Majerus always said, don't look in the rearview mirror, coach them this way. And so you can hear me talking about the guys who've had influences, but I take all that to heart.
Yeah, no question. And then, so we go out there, then we're back with North Alabama right here. And the excitement of then kicking it off at home.
Yeah. Well, if the weather is cooperative, this is the earliest I've ever scheduled at home. But last couple of years it's been great, and then then we go back to California, which is kind of an odd year for us. But we had a return trip to Loyola Marymount, so we're tested pretty much early, and then I think that'll help us decide where things land. But it's going to take us a little longer, I think, this year to get to the A10 rolls.
That was my final question. How do you set up the non-conference to go into the A10? To make another run at a regular season, to try and be fresh going into a tournament championship? How do you manage that, and what are those steps through the season that you're really getting ready for?
Well, I've always tried to do a balance. I think some coaches overschedule, some underschedule. I've tried to do a balance here. I don't think in 2025 you can bury your kids and beat your chest and say we're going to play Texas A&M and on and on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I don't know that that's good for our kids today. There was a time maybe, we had a great team here in 18, went to the regional and won the NCAA, won the A10 title. We were 1-7 to start the year, and we couldn't have beaten anybody. And the lights went on, and my point is we recovered, but I don't know that that's possible with the separation that's going on, quite honestly. And I think that the balance is key. And I think then by the time you get to the A-10, we all kind of know who we are, and we're going to look across the dugouts and go, how do we do things just a little bit better than them? Because we all kind of look the same a little bit. There's so many unknowns in the league. I really couldn't tell you much about the teams.
Last question. Building the culture of Billiken baseball. You see all these guys, the Fogartys, you see them all go. And I'm so proud of what those kids, how they represent us. How do you build that in the year of the day of the portal? How do you help these young guys go, that's what we look like. This is how we act. This is what we look like. Because the end result, when they walk out of here, couldn't be more proud. I mean, it is so cool to see when they walk out. How do you, in today's world of college baseball, college sports, how do you build that to help them?
Well, I think about guys like Cole Smith too. I mean, that guy comes to mind, and of course, Fogue being but we breathed life into some of those guys when they got a chance to come back to SLU, and they paid us back in tenfold. So I think culturally it was a win-win for both parties, and I just think that it's year at a time right now, like all sports, and we don't know kind of what we're getting. So we'd love to keep like a class of freshmen that grow together, and then add a few pieces because we have to. But ideally, I did it for how many years of 8 to 10 freshmen every year in the recruiting class with 3 or 4 transfers. Well, that's sort of gone by the wayside. So I have to relearn this whole thing and quickly, and we did, and we're obviously adapting, but it's more of a culturally. I think you have to say, look what's come before you, look what you have here, and this is one of the most successful programs in the A-10 in baseball, and I think we're trying, we're competing, we're doing everything we can. So those kids need to, I think, all buy into that and understand they're a part of something bigger, because it takes them a while when they get here to really just not know that it's more than just SLU. There's a lot more, and it's mostly about people.
Right. At the end of the day, every time, right? Yeah. Anything else you want to share with our Billikens before we invite them February 21st to be right out here with us? I might have my park on, and we'll have hand warmers, but anything else as you're kicking this season off? Pretty exciting.
No, it's been fun. Yeah, this will be a heck of a challenge. I mean, honestly, it's going to be, Chris, it's 21 new guys, back-to-back years.
It's going to be highs and there's going to be lows.
Yeah, we've got to keep that out of the deal, the highs and lows. I've already talked about that. I told the coaches, obviously they all know too. I mean, we are going to have our patience pills because it's a different time. You mentioned it, the kids are different as far as how their backgrounds, and I've had to dig in deep to get to know them. But no, I really appreciate the fan support. I would dress warm always at the Billiken Sports Complex, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, come see a game, and it's a lot of fun. The kids love it, and I think we're going to at least play hard and get after it. I can't really give you a prediction, and I couldn't do the A-10 poll the other day. I have no idea. I was throwing names in the hat, so I got to be honest.
And you can't vote for us, so
nope, that's right.
Mix the rest of it up.
No, but it's all good. We're looking forward to a good year. Once that calendar hits February tomorrow, tomorrow, is that right? 2 days, sorry.
I got one more day in January. You got to get done. But
after we beat Dayton tomorrow night and then hits the calendar, I'm ready to roll. So.
Well, there you have it, Billiken fans. Darin Hendrickson, our unbelievably successful baseball coach. We are fired up for another year. Come join us February 21st out here. We look forward to doing it again. Until we do it again, go Bills.
Thanks for listening to From the Stands with Billiken Athletic Director Chris May. Subscribe to our podcast in the iTunes Store and have the latest episodes sent straight to your phone. Go Billikens!